we are going to discuss about the AWS solution optimization, that how will you optimize the solutions. Whenever interviewer asks you that what are the factors you look at when you would like to optimize a solution, not every time you will be joining the organization to design the architecture. You will be also joining the organization to improvise the architecture. Let's say that there is an organization and they already have the architecture in place. Now the team or your manager will not ask you to to create the whole architecture again, because architecture is already there. They have already designed the architecture and architecture is already there. So they will not ask you to do it again, but they will ask you to improvise this architecture. When we say improvise, now there are multiple factors we need to look at when we have to improvise the architecture. And these factors are expected even in your interview, that how will you improvise the architecture. So your answer would be that when I am trying to improvise the existing architecture, I will revisit on security. I will revisit on reliability. I will revisit performance efficiency, whether my architecture or whether my proposed architecture is efficient or not, by performance wise or by cost wise, and operational excellence. So I'll tell you the meaning of everything, and make sure that when you go next time in the interview, an interviewer is asking you what are the factors you look at to improvise your solution, you have to name all these 5 factors: security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and operational excellence. When we say security, now what happens that when you have your architecture in place and when you look at the architecture, there are few things which you have to keep in mind, whether there is the VPC or not, virtual private cloud. This helps to make sure that your VPC is correctly configured. Under VPC, you have private subnet and public subnet or not. So you will basically, when you look at the architecture and you will identify that whether VPC is there or not. When you will look at the, so you will find the architecture diagram. When you will look at the architecture diagram, like architecture diagram will give you the entire information of existing solution architecture, that how the AWS solution infrastructure looks like. So let's imagine that, let me draw a very simple architecture over here. So over here we have EC2, which is nothing but your virtual machines. Okay, we have 2 EC2s, and then we have one load balancer. Okay, we have one RDS, which is for database, and over here again we have one RDS. Now we have kept the EC2s into public subnet, and RDS we have kept into private subnet. Okay, now what you will do, you will look at the architecture. This is the whole architecture. Okay, you will first look at, from a security endpoint, you will first look at the VPC, whether you have the VPC or not. Okay, yes, so this architecture has the VPC. Okay, so from a security endpoint, when we look at it, we will look at the VPC. After that, do we have the components of AWS? These are the components, right? These are the services. RDS is for database, EC2 is for virtual machine, load balancer is for load balancer, elastic load balancer is for load balancer, right? So we have to understand what is more important. You might know this, that in the entire world, data is now more important than your cash. So whatever cash you have in your wallet, maybe the data which you have, like related to your passwords, related to your information, personal information, that is more important than the cash you have in wallet, because it might not affect you much, but if data is leaked, your password is leaked, maybe it can land you in a bigger trouble, right? So data needs to be protected first. So you will keep RDS, because RDS is a database service, you will keep RDS into private subnet. You'll make sure that your RDS is in private subnet. That's how you will improvise the security. You will say, no, I cannot put RDS into public subnet. it will be a security risk. So RDS should be part of private subnet. And the EC2 where the applications are running, that I can keep in private to keep it secure. But if I'm okay to keep it in public, I can do that as well. After that, we have to make sure that firewalls are, I'm still on security. So you have to look at the firewalls. So when I say firewalls, what does I mean by firewall? Firewall means that, whatever infrastructure we have over here, let's say EC2, EC2 has a security group. I'm not sure if you guys know this. Some of you who are the existing student, they might aware what is a security group. And people who are joining us going forward, you will come to know very soon what is security group. Security group is the firewall for your server, which makes sure that your server is secure. So you will check whether security group are in proper shape or not, whether the rules inside security groups are good or not. So you have to look at the firewalls. So there are two firewalls in AWS. One is the security group, as we discussed, and another one is NACL. So some people say is NACL, and some people call it as NACL. What does NACL stands for? Network Access Control List. So security group works at server level, which is EC2, and NACL, which is Network Access Control List, that works at the subnet level. So private subnet, public subnet, it works at subnet level. So it actually gives two layer of security. How? So basically what happens, first of all, there is a VPC. Inside VPC, you create a subnet, and inside subnet, you keep your server. This is EC2. So you see that, first of all, the request will come inside subnet. For that, we have NACL firewall. So this request has to cross NACL. Once it crosses NACL, then to enter into EC2, there is a security group layer, which will be the another firewall. Okay. So there are two firewalls, security group and NACL. So these are the very good points which you can tell in your interview, that if we want to improvise our architecture, we have to look at the security. And when we say security, there are multiple ways to secure our architecture by making sure we have a VPC, by making sure we have public and private subnets, by making sure we have firewalls like security group and NACL. Security group works at EC2 level and NACL works at subnet level. Okay. Third, there are other things to improvise security. Okay. So use of SSL certificate. Okay. Secure socket layer certificate. You can read about more, but it is actually helpful for your websites. So I'm not sure how many of you have ever paid attention to, but so the lock symbol, let's say if I access on my Google Chrome, if I access google.com or any website I access over here, okay, let's say let me access this, and you will find this lock symbol. This lock symbol is nothing but your, it says connection is secure. This is because of SSL certificate. SSL certificate stands for secure socket layer. So if interviewer asks you, how are you going to secure your website? So you will say, I am going to use secure socket layer certificate that will help me to make sure that all the connection, let's say all the connection to my website are going to be highly secure. So that is why you will say SSL. This is the another way of securing your all the requests. So let's imagine if on this EC2, if there is a website which is running, so you can imagine that there are numerous ways to secure your architecture. So from a security endpoint, these are the three primary ways you can answer them. After that, you have other services like CloudTrail. So you can use CloudTrail to secure it. And there are multiple other ways by which you can secure your AWS architecture. Coming to the reliability. Reliability is very important. You know why? Now let's imagine that there is a server, EC2 machine, you can say. EC2 is a server in AWS. For the people who are joining very first time, I again want to mention this thing. EC2 is actually the server. It's nothing but a server. And servers are primarily used to host the website. So you access facebook.com, you access netflix.com, you access thinkcloudly.com, all the other websites, and these websites always run on a server. So our thinkcloudly.com website.com is also running on a server. So just like that, our website always run on a server, and in AWS, the website, the server is, we can create servers with the help of EC2. So you can imagine this is a EC2 instance, and on this, we are hosting a website. Okay. Now, when we talk about reliability, you know what happens? When let's imagine there are only 10 requests per day, so the server can handle the request. I mean, all the requests can be handled, and your server will be healthy and it can take care of all these requests. Okay. Now let's imagine that there is only one single server with limited resources and you are sending 1 million requests. What will happen? Your server will fail. It will not be able to handle 1 billion requests because of the limited resources, right? So that shows that your system is unreliable. Your system cannot be relied upon. So that's why you have to make your server architecture reliable. How will you make your architecture reliable? You will make your architecture reliable by making sure that you have multiple servers in place. Okay. You have elastic load balancer, you have auto scaling group. So these are the services which you will be learning, or you might have learned that ELB, basically elastic load balancer, distributes the load. Okay. Auto scaling group, it basically helps to, scale automatically. If in case the number of requests goes to 1 million, automatically it will add more servers to it, so that 1 million requests can be handled. So that's how you make your solution more reliable. Okay. Now, after that, so first thing is that if you want to improvise your reliability, you can use auto scaling group. This will make sure if the number of requests increases, it will increase the number of instances, which means it will increase the capacity of it. Okay, capacity of your solution. So what does it mean? Let's imagine that you know there is a hall. Okay, there is a hall. This is the wedding hall, and in this wedding hall, only 100 people are allowed because it has a capacity of 100 people. And let's imagine you invited 1,000 guests. So your 1,000 guests cannot fit in 100 capacity wedding hall. That's not possible. And you have to fit all the thousands into 100 into this wedding hall. How will you do it? You cannot do it. It means your wedding hall is unreliable. Now, what will you do? You will take another wedding hall, which is for 1,000 people, and this time you will be able to invite your 1,000 guests. So this is how you increase the capacity. So auto scaling group, this is the service used by AWS. This helps you to increase the capacity of your solution. Okay, so this is very important. Now, so first thing we understood that auto scaling group can increase the reliability. There is one more risk to our solution. Okay, to our solution. Let's say our servers are in different regions of the world. Okay, or not in the different regions, but let's imagine that they are in the one region right now. So let's imagine that there is a North Virginia. In North Virginia, your server EC2 machine is running and your website is running over here, and you are sending all the requests to it. And when it scales up, you have another EC2 instance in North Virginia itself. So to manage the request, you have multiple servers created by auto scaling group. Now, it is reliable solution. Why? Because auto scaling group is able to manage the request automatically. It is able to increase number of EC2 instances if the number of requests increase. However, what if there is a natural calamity like hurricane, earthquake, or there is some attack, and the complete data center goes down? Everything is gone down. Your solution is not reliable at all. Why? Because one region got affected because of natural calamity, natural disaster, and your complete solution has gone. Your business is affected 100%. So that is why what we suggest multi-AZ deployment. Multi-AZ deployment, what does it do? It makes sure that you are deploying your EC2 in one availability zone. This is AZ1, and another EC2 in another availability zone. This helps to make sure that if one region or if one availability zone is affected, you still have other availability zone available. So To make your solution more reliable, you will propose that my solution should be available in multiple zones. That is multi-AZ deployment. So if my solution is available in multi-zone, if one zone is affected, I have other zone to be taken care of, which will take care of my customers who are sending the request. So this is very important that if you want to handle the reliability, you have to make sure that you have to make sure that your solution is deployed in multiple availability zones.